And with that, we start off today's session. Hello and a warm good afternoon to everyone joining us today. I am Basundhara from Logistics Insider, and I welcome you all to a very special e-conference today. Food Logistics India and Logistics Insider presents India's food supply chain at the cusp of a new revolution in association with FM Logistic India. With today's virtual show, we aim to set the tone for the Logistics India Summit to be held during the international exhibition from 2nd to 4th of December this year at Pragati Maidan, New Delhi. It goes unsaid that the food supply chain is the life of the industry. Of course, without that, survival and sustenance would simply cease to exist. Attending to the many facets of the food supply chain to keep it updated, uninterrupted, and technologically advanced is critical at a time like ours. And today's session will be a brief reflection and interflow of crucial exchanges among top stakeholders of the industry regarding the focal points of the food supply chain. From using the power of technology to streamline inefficiency in the supply chain to reducing wastage in the food supply chain, today's session is all about exchanging thought-provoking suggestions and igniting ideas that shed light on the country's food supply chain. With this, I would like to call upon our esteemed panel of speakers to the screen. Joining us for the session is Mr. Satish Lakkaraju, Chief Commercial Officer, Agility Logistics, who will be the moderator steering today's discussion ahead.
Good afternoon.
K. Udyan Kohli, Head, Supply Chain Management, HyFun Food.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone.
Mihir Mohanta, DM Supply Chain, Mother Dairy, Fruits and Vegetables.
Good afternoon. Hi.
Sachin Shikrapurkar, Director, Sales and Marketing, FM Logistic.
Good afternoon to all. Thanks, Basundhara, for the right pronunciation from us. Thank you so much.
Very good afternoon to the panels. We'll also have Mr. Sanjay Singal, Chief Operating Officer, Dairy and Beverages ITC Limited, who will join us shortly. We welcome you all, and before I request Satish sir to start off, a note to our viewers that we'll also be taking questions towards the end of the session today, so please feel free to type in your questions for our distinguished panel members. With that, I hand over the reins of the session to Satish. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, Vasudha. And it's my pleasure to be moderating one more session on a very important topic on the food. I think it has evolved, and we are definitely at the cusp of the evolution and the revolution. Because what else is important? If you don't have a fresh morning tea at your home, or the feeling is so bad that the whole day may get impacted, and we don't realize the value how the food supply chain runs throughout the night in the back end, and these unsung heroes have always been making sure that even during these difficult pandemic times, they have been supporting in every stage, and thanks to all of them. And it's important for us today to recognize the contribution made by everyone in the food supply chain and in the supply chain. I would like that in today's session we discuss on important points which relate to reducing waste in food supply chain, streamlining inefficiencies with the help of advanced technology, IoT, artificial intelligence, blockchain, identifying and filling the gaps in the farm to fork strategy, the new trends in reefer transport, the real-time monitoring, etc. Warehousing and cold chain warehousing for perishables. This definitely is a sector which has been in existence, but a lot can be done, and we would like to discuss that. And the role of demand forecasting, because forecasting helps us to plan better, and how critical it is to understand that, and how the sales and marketing people to the operations people's mismatch in terms of the forecasting sometimes leads to other issues. And no vertical can grow without the government's intervention. and government has been sensitive to this aspect, and which is why the new logistics policy was also incorporated recently, which is to be passed in the parliament. But definitely, we see a lot more initiatives, and we will discuss about that. So, without taking further ado, time, I would go to Mr. Mihir, who has been for quite some years into this industry, and he's a veteran, and he can talk about initially the government initiatives as well in his opening remarks, and before I go to the other panel. So, over to you, Mr. Mihir.
Yeah, good afternoon to you all. I think the initiatives taken by government in last couple of years, particularly last 3 years, has been remarkable in the front of food and agri-food supply chain. Particularly earlier, the government used to provide incentives for the production of agriculture produce, or the it normally used to the production. But today, if you look at the government's policies, have shifted from production towards the logistics. So today you find a freight subsidy, you find a Kisan Rail, or you even find a marketing incentive like PLIs are there for the food processing sectors. Now, this was something which is a departure from the previous situation where the subsidies were either given for the as a capital incentive for setting up the food processing plants, or it used to be a incentive for growing of the crops. Now, so now it is, as you see, it is shifting towards the market. Uh, on the front of price stabilization or the market recovery also, government has enacted 3 laws which although there are debates still going on, but the intent is to have one nation, one market. It has opened up the barriers of the states and regions as well as the districts where the goods can free flow from one location. The tax which APMC taxes particularly which are there in the different markets have been removed so that anybody can enter and move on inside the market. Similarly, Kisan Rail is one of the initiatives which has been meant for fresh produce movement. Now, this initiative, if you look at it, it has provided 50% subsidy, and the initiative is going to help because it's also going to generate less carbon. Because all trucks moving from one sector as well. We are ourselves a user of Kisan Rail, and what we used to get in 5 days, we get in just about 30 hours. So that's the kind of advantage a farmer can get if we are able to link these or open these up substantially or democratize these opportunities for the small farmers. Now, there are other things like the green pot. Earlier, there used to be pot items, potato, onion, tomato. They had 500 crore price stabilization fund. The same is now also available for as a price stabilization fund, where government is intervening so that prices don't go beyond a point of time, beyond a level. Like you see the government intervening, storing themselves more than 2 lakh metric ton of onion, and at the time when availability is less, the prices go up, they release it into the market. So that's one way, an intervention for the consumer also. It's both for consumer as well as the producer, because they have to buy from the producer and then then again distribute it across India. The third thing that food processing ministry has gone ahead with is the PLI schemes. Now, PLI schemes are basically incentives. If you invest certain amount within India, and these are Indian processors, then they have that advantage, or they can apply for an incentive, and it is linked to the basically the turnover. So how much sales, if you achieve those sales, you get those kind of incentives. So it is one thing. Earlier it used to be only the capital subsidy government used to provide. Now it's a subsidy which is linked to the sales. So it is more now it's more inclined towards the market. Similarly, if you are an exporter, and if you export fruits and processed fruits and vegetable, you can actually get incentive for branding of your brand in the foreign countries, the destination countries. So there is also substantial amount of incentive linked to it, and believe it, all these are performance linked schemes. So you have to achieve certain targets to get these, avail these. So in a nutshell, I would say government has brought in attention to the farming sector, farming as well as the food sector. 10,000 crore of rupees has been allocated. Also, there is a hand in hand, the startups are also being encouraged. During the last 2 years of the pandemic, startups have shown their abilities, and in fact, they have performed better than the others. All agri-tech startups, which were about 250 startups in 2018, today there are more than 1,000 startups, and most of them are getting the funds, are able to raise funds for the fact that their performance during the pandemic has been noticeable. Many of increase in their revenues. So I think the things are in a right direction. Government has shown interest, and we of course, it will take some time to see the results coming in, or the changes percolating down to the individual farmers. But definitely, it's on a right direction and right path, from the farm reforms to the changes, the incentives, and the intent of the government is very clear. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mihir. I think you touched upon the new enactments that the government is looking at. You looked about the small farmers being able to get access to the larger markets, one nation, one market. You spoke about the food processing ministries, PLI schemes, which are very encouraging as well. And then the 11,000 crores allocation on the exporters branding incentives. Then you also spoke about the startups for agri-tech from 250 to 1,000 as well. So I think there are a lot of points that are touched, and I will come back to you on more in respect of EPEDA and other agencies. But I'll quickly move on to Mr. Udyan Kohli for his inputs, both from a government standpoint and in terms of cold chain infrastructure in the country, and what could be done really, along with his opening remarks. Over to you, Udyan.
Hi, Satish, and first of all, thanks to Logistic Insider and the Coal and Mess for creating and inviting for this great event. And also thanks to you for giving me an opportunity for sharing my views on this contradictory matter, or the topic, I can say, or a hot topic also. We can say that nowadays there's a debate everywhere. There's a debate whether we should create a in-house kind of infrastructure, warehousing, logistical infrastructure, or the outsource. So there is a healthy debate everywhere goes on, and we all are selling in the same kind of boat. It's needless to say, it is quite difficult to prove whether an in-house infrastructure is better or an outsourced, as both models have their own significance respectively, and both are successfully accepted also by the industry. On one side, we can say usually the professional says there is no comparison of the in-house structure. It is incomparable. You have liberty to use it in any manner. It is flexible and everything. And on other side, we say in-house structure could not be everywhere, so industry created this outsourced one. So the same way, there are so many pros and cons for this I'm talking about. So let's say on one side, if we go about the pros of positive sides of this infrastructure availability, first of all, we need to understand availability of the infrastructure in industry. I come from a background of cold chain industry. So from where we are coming, so I can give you an instance. Let's say we are having infrastructure. Here I'm sharing some positive sides of infrastructure, in-house infrastructure, whether it is about the warehousing, whether it is your trucks, whether it is anything you are having infrastructure, you have. So you have a better control, you can have a better control your inventory, in and out activities, storage activities, and other operational activities will be in your control if you are having a in-house control. Same way, the monitoring will be easy. You can monitor easily in case of in-house in comparison to the outsourced one. Same way, the flexibility of running operation will be make your system smooth. You don't need to take there are so many things that makes easy to your operations in our facility. Stakeholders' confidence also get increased when the inventory is in your control, warehousing is in your control, manpower is in your control. You can work flexibly anytime on holidays also, on national holidays also, or anytime. So if you are having in-house structure, that is one thing. Also, nowadays everything depends on the data. We all in the
It appears Mr. Kohli's got some connection issues or something. So let's just give him 2 minutes. If not, then I'll go to Mr. Sachin to then take a question on the warehousing aspect as well. So just give him 2 minutes and Sachin, in the meantime, what you can do is you can be prepared to really discuss on the
I'm
same
sorry,
point.
there was some disconnection.
Okay, so go ahead, Mr. Kohli, no problem.
Am I visible?
Yeah,
Yes.
you're visible
Also,
and
I
audible.
was discussing about. Thank you. Also, I was discussing about nowadays it is a data's time. Everybody wants data. So using your in-house facility is more beneficial to keep secret your data. No one can know what exactly the stock, at what price, or what quantity you're dispatching to your customer, who is your customer and who is not. So in terms of all these points that I have mentioned, 4 or 5 points, these are the positive side. But on other side, as I have mentioned, so both the things are significant for the industry. So we can also not neglect the outsourced infrastructure of the industry. Let's say service and expertise, we all know nowadays we all are having a good channel partners with us. So I don't want to quote the names. So we all are working with some good channel partners, the service providers we can say. So they are having good expertise in terms of manpower, in terms of knowledge, in terms of technology also. I'm talking about some premium channel partners. Less capital expenditure is there. So if you're using the outsourced infrastructure, you don't need to spend your capex on some infra. The same money you can use in your production or in grooming your company in different segments. Ease of changing vendor. Let's say if I'm not or we are not happy with the services, so we are having an ease to change our vendor also. to avoid handling power. We all know nowadays handling manpower is a big concern for all of us. Nobody wants to manage the manpower, and everybody wants a show without manpower. So that is the reason things are converting into technology side. Also, to avoid the complexity of the operations, nowadays India is a developing country, kind of, we can understand. So there are so many startups, so each startup, so it is not possible or it is not easy for each startup to create its own infrastructure into. So let's say it could be because of the spending power, it could be because of the challenge of manpower, and so many things. So avoiding the complexities of all the operational outsourced infrastructure is good in comparison to the in-house one. And same, it also helps in expanding our network, distribution network. This is I'm talking about. It is not possible for any company to create small warehouses at each and every. Let's say, as I mentioned that I come from HyFun Foods. HyFun Food is I can say it is a startup company. Just in 5 years back, 2016, it was just started. And when we just started with the in-house structure in near to our factory, which is just a mile away from our plant. So that time, when the business was not grown up, and things were quite conservative that time. So we were using our in-house structure and we did well. But as soon as we were growing up with the market, and now we can say proudly we are the India's largest frozen potato snacks manufacturer. But still we are using in-house and outsourced infrastructure in 50% manner. Let's say I'm giving an example. Post arrival of the finished good in the warehouse, we keep the product till 7 to 15 days in our mother warehouses. Those all mother warehouses are in-house. Post that, we dispatch it to some direct to customers, sometimes to our regional warehouses also. These regional warehouses are located at different cities of the country, just like Chennai, Hyderabad, Bangalore, Punjab, Delhi, Calcutta. So it is not easy or it is not possible for each and every company to create its own infrastructure, because it is not about the infrastructure. It is not about the money that you are spending. It is about the services also. It is about the handling also. You cannot handle all these things in your control. So in my view, in my perspective, both of the infrastructure, whether it is in-house, whether it is outsourced, so both are having its own significance. We cannot neglect each one of them. Thank you.
Thank you, Udyan. I know it's not an easy job for one to decide whether we need to be outsourced or in-house, because it's always a debate that continues to exist, and service providers like us would prefer that you all outsource the activity, because that's our thing, and that's where Sachin comes in to throw some more inputs in terms of really saying is that, okay, what are the major advantages that an outsource model can bring? Not that Udyan has said there is no advantage. He is given the own things. So over to you, Sachin.
Yeah, thank you first of all to all the panelists, and very happy to be present here. And also thank you to Logistics Insider and Whole Mission to give us the opportunity to talk about this. I think what Mr. Udayan and Mr. Mihir mentioned in that line, I would say that just to give a background, at FM Logistics, we are a family-owned company, about 54-year-old company, and also a long-term orientation. So I think the points Mr. Kohli raised, thank you for championing the cause of outsourcing this important part of the supply chain. What we feel is that we bring on board, since we are long-term oriented, we bring on board a very grade A infrastructure of warehouse, I think, which is sort of lacking in the country as of today. What we bring on board is a grade A infrastructure, which is a necessity for food supply chain. This is in terms of infrastructure, be it on the readiness of control temperature elements in the warehouse, or in terms of trained resources or quality manpower, which Mr. Udyan said, and also flexibility. I would put it in because such a dynamic, nowadays we are seeing with COVID and other issues, there is a lot of flexibility which is required by the companies in terms of scaling up and scaling down operation at times, because there are multiple demand skews and there are different elements to it. So what we bring on board is sort of multi-client facilities kind of a model in India, which actually helps a lot of customers to work upon the scalability part, and also offer a ready-made infrastructure. As Mr. Kohli said, it's really very important to have something ready to start quickly and reach to customers, at different locations and different parts of the country. Like for example, we are present across, I would say, 35 cities and 50 plus customers in India. Globally, we are present in 14 countries with 200 plus platforms. And I think what is also important to notice here is the kind of infrastructure which is currently available in warehouses. Not just food. I think we all of know that other parts of industry, we see that the infrastructure is quite old. The warehouses are old. They are not designed to optimum efficiency of the operations. So I think this is an important aspect of the whole chain, that the warehouses, or we can call it fulfillment centers, we can call it even smaller urban logistics centers, which we want to bring in India, and we have already invested in India in terms of building grade A infrastructure. I think this is what will be the future. Many times we have this conversation around the grade A infrastructure might cost us more, from a customer perspective. But I think with the kind of efficiencies which brings in, with the kind of design and the kind of utilization of the rights, I would say right resources within warehouse building, I think that offsets all the increase which you see in grade A facilities. And also we see that these grade A facilities are built to last for a longer period of time, say 20 years, 30 years plus. So eventually, you would look at the kind of scenario of cost and the benefit. I think it weighs more. As Mr. Mihir also rightly said, this whole farm to fork part, where government is taking a lot of initiatives, and we as a company also sort of working with a lot of startups. I think that's one point which Mr. Mihir brought forward. There are many startups who's trying to bridge this gap, where typically food moves from seven to 15 kind of intermediaries, because of fragmented supply of the product, or farmers are not having sort of a capacity to supply. In West we are seeing that there are large companies like Whole Foods or Costco. They buy in bulk. We had seen that kind of I would say scenario in a lot of corporate customers who have started this contract farming and buying in bulk. But what is more important is that there are a lot of startups who are building this kind of ecosystem, and we at FM, we like to be present in the whole supply chain, all the stakeholders, be it warehousing, be it transportation, as you said about control temperature, transportation, which is also an important part of the supply chain. And it's difficult, for companies to invest in this kind of, I would say, fleet. Many times, it's always depend on the third-party service provider or transportation partner to give that kind of option. So we feel that this whole farm to fork supply chain, right from helping startups to work on collection centers, it's a different, I would say, ball game. Collection centers, collecting from different farmers, it's a different than collecting from, say, industrial cargo, or any other cargo that matters. So it's a different ball game for us. I think a lot of companies in this field, large companies, learning in isolation. They are not, I would say, replicating this kind of knowledge which they are gathering at this point of time from handling this kind of a supply chain. So what we intend to do is to use this knowledge, build this knowledge, and then use it for multiple customers. I think the mutualization of resources is one of the key element for our offering. So be it on the learnings and the knowledge which we gather on the collection part from different food elements, and then bringing it to warehouses. Obviously, the one important point Mr. Kohli touched upon is about manpower. I think you also mentioned it's very difficult to manage manpower in this current scenario. We have a little contradictory view to that. We've been ensuring that 70% of manpower remains on our boat and on our roll. We believe that it gives a lot of quality and productivity. We had seen that over, I would say, 7 or 8 years of period of time, in especially in COVID times also, we see that the manpower which is on our roll could stick with us. So I think this some important elements which in the supply chain, because this quality to need to be ensured. In food is, I think it's extremely critical to ensure safety and quality of the food which we handle in terms of warehouse or in terms of transport. So I think this is important elements which we need to consider in terms of handling the food products and completing the whole farm to fork supply chain. I think this is where companies like us come in play, and a lot of other industry players would come in and give farmers, as Mr. Mir was saying, democratizing this whole supply chain, and improving a lot of efficiencies on food wastage, or a lot of other wastages which happen during the moving the food from farm to the plate. So I think that's where we come in.
Thank you, Sachin. I think what we need to recognize is that our customers' requirements have changed drastically over the years after independence, where we were used to take it from the farm and cook and eat, to the way the world has changed. And we have been exposed to a lot more new type of things. And I know today, even if I go to Mr. Udyan Kohli's website and try to order the jalapenos, it will show as sold out. And that's the level at which things have started to change in the food cold chain, that the wants of the younger generation are demanding the supply chains expectations, that in 30 minutes the McDonald's burger gets into it. But to get that burger and the patty together and to make that whole thing, the complexity at which things are happening, even if there's a water flooding in Delhi, in Gurgaon in the last 2 days, I think the food cold chain continues to be there. But what I wanted to bring about is the important aspect Sachin brought out. In the past, we all knew that warehousing was never a terminology common in our houses. We only knew what was a godown. And godown used to be what it is. And then when I got married, they didn't even think about giving the girl to me, because they think I carry boxes. So that was the reputation in which the supply chain players were, to talking of terminologies like grade A facility, a position of 30 years in terms of sustainability, in terms of those. And contract farming was never something which came in, probably when the ITC Chopal case happened during our MBA days or whatever it is, later to what someone like Del Monte partnered with Punjab. Control temperature was, no one knew what range, what is a 2 to 8, what is a 15 to 25 or minus 20 in the past. Today we talk about minus 30s and 40s. We talk about technologies which are far higher in terms of what we use. And then important point that Sachin talked about is the aspect of knowledge sharing. I think that's where we really would want players in the whole chain to share this knowledge even to existing players like a Mother Dairy or a Human Foods or anyone else, to know what else we as an industry can do. Because then you don't do, I know it is very unique and it's very close to me, but today if I share information, that could help in the others being benefited, and the larger part of it is that technology can be used. I think on manpower, you touched upon again, Sachin, critical aspects. Training and development is something in the cold chain which all of us should strive really to get more people to understand why that particular product has to be maintained at a particular temperature, and what are we doing really. Because if someone sees a product getting impacted because of not maintaining the cold chain, it's a brand reputation which gets equally impacted. And I think that's something which we all recognize, that you want to eat something which tastes as fresh as cooked from your kitchen. And fortunately, that is an advantage we have in the new environment. So I think we've touched upon important aspects so far. But one important aspect that I wanted to touch along with Mr. Mihir Mohanta was, today government is showing initiatives. People like the media partners and the rest of them are making effort to create the awareness. What is that else that someone like Mother Dairy would expect in the long term? See, one is the government initiative, surely. You all have come a long way, and today we are in a situation where we cannot survive without your products. This has become a part of our daily life, really. But then there are other challenges in the cold chain, and maybe someone senior like you can enlighten us. Is that how can we deploy more of technology, or what is that we can do additionally? Before I come to the rest of the questions, over to you, Mr. Mihir.
Yes. See, one of the major issues that cold chain faces is almost 90% of the cold chain what is in operation in India are basically fragmented or the unorganized sector, who is having say 2 truck loads or 5 trucks or less than 10 trucks. Uh, so they don't manage and maintain a fleet of trucks. So their understanding is basically limited to the truck he is having and the driver he has. So it is also that they have to have their understanding on the product, what they are carrying, the behavior, nature, and product of nature of the product. What is the temperature, storage temperature, what's the humidity temperature, and what the humidity, frequency, temperature, and air flows. So all those technical aspects has to be understood by them, and they have to be utilize these. Now, it is not just cold chain is not just putting a box onto the wheels, 4 wheels of a truck, but technology wise, they have to understand that the cold chain never breaks. If there are breakage of cold chain, the products gets affected, and once it's affected, you cannot recover it back to the same stage. If it is a frozen product, once it's thawed, uh, definitely it also is affected with the microbes. Okay, so the understanding of the product storage protocols, government has defined the standards at what it should be kept, but it has yet to come up with the individual product wise storage protocols. So that has to come up. The second aspect is the technicality of the. No, you cannot always keep blaming truck driver because it has failed in maintaining the temperature. There are more than truck drivers. The technical aspect of the refer box also is to be managed and maintained. Now, if you look at, there are truck manufacturers like you'll find Mahindra, Tatas, but there are no truck box manufacturers. It doesn't come uh, along with the cold or reefer van. So it has to be manufactured separately. So the standards of manufacturing of the cold van, particularly the boxes, what should be the insulation, what should be the cooling capacity. So all those aspects have to be standardized. Today we do not have the standards of or standards or the ratings for these cold chain reefer vans. So these have to be rated. And first thing there has to be standards. Like in US particularly, there's USDA which has formulated standards for reefer vans and all. So we in India, although we have NCCD, it gives guidelines, but standards are yet to be followed, or these are not mandatory as of now. So technology side, we need to get upgraded. The industry side, there has to be more consolidation of industry so that uniform services are available. On data logger and temperature monitoring, they have to go online, GPS based, and also adopt newer technology. It's not that what is the life of even today. You can predict if you have certain packages basis your storage history, you can predict what is the shelf life of the product. So those kind of futuristic packagings have to be adopted. so that what you eat today is safer for the consumer. Consumer should not have an no doubt of whether what he eats is good for him or not. Particularly today, if you when the COVID scenario came up, people have started washing the vegetables in neem as a neem wash, and certain new products have came up for as a hygiene products. So these hygiene products, it's not only for the COVID, but these have to be there, and particularly urban consumers are getting sensitized on the safety and health of the health and hygiene of the products. So it is important that we look at the health, hygiene, and other aspects. Now there are certain aspects like quality measuring aspects. Generally in mandi, you don't whatever you look and feel, see what it is, and basis that pricings are done. But many of the startups have come up with gadgets whereby they can actually measure the quantitatively and differentiate the product quality, or they can predict things in advance, like if if the mango is matured, in how many days it is going to ripen, or if it is not a mature mango, it's a immature mango, they can tell even without destroying the product. So there are many things which are coming up, and as a food sector is opening up, we will have to keep our eyes and ears open, adopt, try new technologies, new innovations that are coming up, and that will help the industry to grow faster and in a better and safer way. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Mihirji. You brought out such brilliant points that I would have probably thought, these are so critical, but why people did not think for so many years. I think the truck manufacturer to the box manufacturer, I fully agree that this is an area which we also think should be looked at it, but you brought it out, and maybe we should take it up to the industry as well, or to the manufacturers, because you rightly said we don't have standards in terms of it. Probably the unit that is used along with it, those have standardization, but not really the way the doors are put or the structures are put. That's one brilliant takeaway from me from today's discussion. Your guidelines on the NCCD, those truly agree, and the reefer standards that need to be bought into it. The consolidation aspects that you spoke about, the data loggers, I agree that we can look at other mechanisms which are more economical also and live in terms of giving data. We've been working on it along with some startups like Tagbox in Bangalore and the rest of them. Predictive shelf life, I think brilliant. That's something which we would definitely want to know when we look at a bread or we look at an ice cream, in terms of what the predictive shelf life is, when should we have eaten it. I think that's something which is also at the health hygiene aspects that you spoke about, the gadgets at the mandis and the rest of them, the mango maturity and all. I think you touched upon brilliantly a lot more points which will make the food supply chain more transparent, and in a way I would put it up in a single word called the unbroken cold chain from start to the finish is something which you touched upon. So I'll come back to you with a few more questions, but you got about much more, and maybe I will go now to Udyan Kohli to understand their standpoint in similar line, because they've been in existence for many years, but I know they are specifically focused on certain products related to potato and the rest of them. So do we have Mr. Udyan?
Sir, मैं call back करता हूँ आपको, please. I'm sorry.
Yes. So, my question to you is in continuation to what Mr. Mihir had mentioned, clearly in terms of the various challenges, the use of technology, and the rest of them. For someone like you all, where you don't have too many SKUs, I would guess that when compared to a mother dairy or someone else, the number of SKUs are much higher. But and for you, sometimes the scale may be a problem, because you may not have the same order size to be delivered all the time, and still maintaining the temperature. What would be your one advice or request that the industry should look at in the long term for us to build on?
Okay. First of all, Satish, as you have mentioned about the technology in logistics, warehousing and logistics. So we have seen so many professionals or so many big shots of the industry are talking about the ML, IoT, and other things in this to be bring down in the system. But another side, we need to understand we are working in a country, we are living in a country which is a developing country, and where we are fighting with the basic amenities. If I talk about the power, still power is not being given to all the states 24 by 7. Still there are challenges. Yes, apart from this power cut and other things, there are so many other things also there. Yes, no doubt. If we compare for last 10 years, there are so many multiple of the improvements is there in the logistics. In terms, if we talk about the temperature monitoring, yes, temperature monitoring is being quite easy nowadays. It is in a very small cost. Anyone can deploy a device in their trucks, in their warehouses, data logger kind of things, and monitoring is not a big deal now in terms of temperature, whether it is for chilled, whether it is for ambient, whether it is for frozen, for pharma, food, or any other segment. But yes, as you have asked to give me my advice to the industry, my only small one advice to work on the traceability, to work on the maximum monitoring on the things. If we will monitor the things, let's say if we always deploy a separate team for operations who takes care of all the daily operations, in and out activities and other things, but we do not deploy a separate team for monitoring. I'm not talking about a big size of team, but yes, 24 by 7 every mechanism, if it is about the manufacturing unit, distributor, and or any distribution center or any third party channel. Monitoring is the big challenge nowadays. The more we monitor our trucks, our cold stores, the more we will be able to save the fruits and vegetables and the other products to be get perished. So it is the one liner advice from my side.
No, perfect. It's important that traceability is an important aspect either in food or in any other part of it. Today, the industry players are looking like aspects of control tower, around the clock 24 by 7. Who in
Correct.
food industry cannot afford very costly, expensive solutions with crores of rupees like what maybe a pharma industry can look at it. So one of the initiatives that we have been working on as an industry as well is to encourage Indian startups to address this issue in a way by using sensors which don't cost more than 10 rupees to be linked to gateways across the truck, which means it is a traceability at a box level rather than a traceability at a shipment level on a pallet. Because in food, the guy eating one small portion may not be the same person who's taking the whole pallet. So we've realized that these are important subjects which we should be touching upon. But since you've touched it upon, I think we can always discuss in the next conference or sometime of what else can be done and bring technology players who have been working on it, so that you get really cost efficient but really truly visible solutions as well. Because today, even when you get a biryani from any of the restaurant, you're not even sure whether it was made in the morning or the evening on a lighter sense. And that's something which you would want to know, that it's cooked fresh and given to you fresh. So these are very good important points. And maybe I'll go now to Sachin. That is there anything that FM does in terms of technology really for food and technology, or is it not so much on food?
Yeah, as I think Mr. Kohli rightly mentioned that we need to look at, we are sort of developing. We have a lot of technology which we are deployed in Europe, but it's not just copy paste here in India. What happens is that, as you also rightly said, Mr. Satish, that control tower is what we had seen a lot of players deploying, And what we would look at is, one step ahead, in terms of control tower, it would be process control center. It's not just, it just doesn't monitor the activities, but it actually improves the processes. To give you few examples, that when we say do a collection from, say, farm, or certain particular point of time, we there's a large truck, which is deployed, and it moves to, say, 3 or 4 different farms. It's an efficient process. We have this knowledge. We have a, sort of a process control center which actually notices these inefficiencies, and find ways to ensure that these inefficiencies are taken care, so that eventually, all the cost, all the wastage can come down. I think we need to have a combination of technology and some sort of a, I would say, currently, I would say, manual intervention, in terms of building some database, building some knowledge, and then turn it into, as you also rightly said, with some startups who would give us, a lot of big data analytics from this knowledge which we gather. I think that's something which we are working on currently. We do this is for a lot of industrial and other startup companies which we work with. Give you just a case in point. There's a company called Waycool, who actually, trying to do a farm to fork kind of a thing, and we support them in that. I think one important point also I would like to bring on, this is also about, we don't have, you talk about scale with Mr. Kohli, that we don't have some arrangement, in control temperature LTL shipments. Forget about, intermodal part, but even for road, we cannot ship something which is, of a smaller quantity. We have to have a big truck, or we have to engage with certain size of a, vehicle to reach out to customers. I think there also we should look at. We have seen large players like, say, Nestle, or chocolate manufacturers wants to deliver to, certain smaller amounts of cargo. I think there what we need to come in, and we need to deploy some sort of. We had started deploying electric vehicles, refrigerated electric vehicles, I would say, for last mile distribution. But we need to have some sort of a arrangement where we can do even this LTL shipments in a controlled temperature format. I think that's where the, probably the gap which exists currently. And with us, probably we have these large consumption centers, and I would say large MCFs, multi-client facilities, as we call it, where we can use cross docks, to do some sort of a delivery to certain size of cargo, consolidate that because we already have an infrastructure, and then deliver that. So I think these 2 3 important points, I think we all need to pay attention and make a system where, eventually, I think we say that organic food is safe, but I think safe food is, fresh food is safe, most safe, I would put it. We don't have to be an organic food. I think unless and until it is safe and it is fresh, it's going to be a very safe product. So I think we need to all work towards that.
No, thank you, Sachin. And historically, we've seen that we did not have the luxury of so many items on our menu cards in our life when we started. It used to be either the basic rice and curry at South India, or a roti and dal in the rest of them. But we've also seen there's been a lot of food wastage that happens in multiple levels, be it on the foods or whatever it is. So we fortunately have now Mr. Sanjay with us. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, I
So
can.
Sanjay ji, welcome.
My apologies. No, my apologies. I got stuck somewhere. My apologies to my
No, no,
panelists
no. Fine.
and to everyone. Huh?
No, brilliant. So you've come at a right time when I wanted to ask you the question on reducing the food wastage in the food supply chain, because we did not still touch upon this question before you came in. We kept it for you, eagerly waiting, and so I would request you to give us some more insights on where do you think the industry should in general be looking at reduction in waste, because we get a lot of data in terms of per capita and rest of them, but I'm not a subject matter expert on that. But if we can reduce the wastage, it's good enough to give it to someone else or someone else to buy, and also it is good for the companies because you don't want to have wastage really. So over to you, Mr. Sanjay.
No. Again, my apologies for getting delayed. But basically, good afternoon. So, ITC, I represent ITC. We are a packaged food player, and we just entered the category around 15 years back or 16 years back. Now, basically, the perspective, let me give you a perspective of food wastage, because we all know the numbers as you spoke about, that in India, the penetration of, let's say, packaged food is basically in the 10 to 20% across categories versus some other countries. And obviously, wastage has a lot of relationship also, I guess, to our farmer income, which is very, very important. Now, let me take one of the categories we are in. We are in atta, we are in biscuits, we are in juices. Let me take, for example, the question on wastage into the fruit and vegetable part or the horticulture part of the Indian agri-economy chain. Now, India is the largest grower now of horticultural products in the world. However, the estimates show that between 20 to 40% of that is getting wasted at the farm level itself, either because of the lack of proper processing at the farm level, proper plucking, etc., etc. Number two is, and a lot of the panelists, co-panelists are from the supply chain and the cold chain infrastructure, because we don't have adequate cold chain to actually send it as a table fruit or a table vegetable to the consumer, which is the entire leg from storage at the near the farms to transportation to the point of consumer consumption. And the third part is the lack of processed fruits itself. So, for example, let us take the category of fruit beverages. We have a small business there, and in fruit beverages, when we as ITC look down to give you a perspective of what we are trying to do, we saw that in India, while the fruit beverage market or category is around 12,000 crores, which is your Tetra Pak juices and bottle juices, except for mango, lychee, pomegranate, and guava, where India has had expertise in terms of crop varieties, or in terms of pulping and storage. Every other fruit that our children or the consumer in India is consuming as a juice, apple or pineapple or mixed fruit or whatever else, it is all coming from the produce of farmers of Brazil, farmers of Israel, or farmers of America, like orange. It's all Californian orange. Now, that doesn't do great service to the Indian farming community or to the Indian ecosystem. So ultimately, you're buying an orange from a Californian farmer and selling a juice here. So basically, that is what the challenge is. So what we have done, but we are not saying we've cracked it really, is that all the fruits we sell under our Be Natural brand are made with fruits of Indian farmers. So we have developed, because we have ITC Agri Business Unit, which buys our wheat, buys our juices, buys our milk for us, buys our fruits. We have tried to create across 5-6 states in India ecosystem for growing and processing pineapple, apple, and so on and so forth, using the Indian farmers' fruits. So I think that is where the challenge lies. The challenge lies in not only creating what I spoke about, the ecosystem for cold store or transportation. It also lies in encouraging from various angles the Indian produce. And when I mean various angles, let us not limit it to supply chain only. There's also a regulatory angle. So I want to share just a last 10 seconds. When we started saying that, okay, I will start using the Nagpur ka santra rather than getting the santra or orange from California, we realized कि boss जो FSSAI का rule है that mentions the brick content which is only will work for a orange from California. It took us, we have still not cracked it, because we had to go and we are requesting FSSAI to change their regulation that I can use my own country's oranges in an orange juice, because the regulation also made like that. It is still a work in progress. We haven't cracked it. So I think it is really what the Indian government is doing, is trying to do, is really make the entire ecosystem such that it encourages the farmer to the processor and the marketeer of food processing to actually start using the Indian farm produce and not let it go waste. Beyond what I spoke about, supply chain, cold chain. Cold chain is obviously not to be sold only at the farm level of the supply chain. Cold chain also has to be solved at the retail level. I mean, practically speaking, not more than 10 to 15,000 Indian retail stores today have a refrigerated equipment. So that's the other part to look at it.
No, I think brilliant. Why this topic is also close to my heart is that today the Indian farmer himself struggles to export because he can't get a pack house to pack his goods. So that's an area which we've been always talking to governments and saying that why can't you have pack houses close to the airport and from there it gets straight away to be exported. I think you touched upon that important aspect of plucking, table vegetable aspect, the lack of processes, and then you touched upon the very important aspects of the Indian, produced vegetables or fruits really being used. The reason why that becomes important is if you look at the current ocean freight rates, does it make any sense to even bring the import from any other country and wait for over 90 days on the sea and then process it and then try and give a juice because your the peak summer demand is already taken care of and then you have that inventory lying with you. So you touched upon it brilliantly because in the current scenario, wastage means not just the physical wastage, but it is time, energy in the supply chain that we are looking at not being wasted because your supply chain manager is fighting over that container for 90 days and not able to see it whether it will get into the Bangalore plant or somewhere else even in the next 15 days from Chennai or Mumbai. So I think you've touched upon it brilliantly and I'm glad you joined the webinar and gave your inputs. What we will do is that since the organizers have told me at 2:15 I'm supposed to hand over the mic back to Vasundhara. So we'll start with the last closing remark that you want to give as one takeaway or two takeaways for today, and which we can look at in the coming conferences as well as if this can be taken up with governments or agencies. So we will start with Mr. Mihir specifically, and then we will go to Udyan, Kohli, Sachin, and then come back to Mr. Sanjay, and then I'll hand it over to Vasundhara. So, Mihir, if you are there, your last bit of
Yes, yes. Yeah. See, I
your
was
last
hearing on the. Yes, sir. See, there are two aspects to it, which we have been talking about a lot of startups and new technology and all. So, in the food supply chain, if you look at, there are two aspects of it. One is, digital supply chain. So, digital aspect of it, where we pass on the information or information flows from one end to another. So, like your ordering in a web portal and for home delivery, it's a digital aspect. The other aspect is the physical aspect, the physical movement of the goods to the consumer. Now, over a period of time, many of the startups have worked a lot around the digital aspect of it to make it smoothen. But however, the challenges of the physical movement from the farm to fork still continues to be a challenge. So that is one aspect which we will have to look at it. One which we had discussed, one is the post-harvest practices, which leads to the post-harvest losses, the farm to the mandi or the market, and the extent of movement, time, duration. So that leads to perishability and shelf life reduction. And treatment of these foodstuffs at the mandi. How do you sell it? Do you have standard packaging system? Do you have a standard auctioning system? How is the price discovery? Are you following the traditional price discovery mechanism of underhand handkerchief to the market and the farmer's realization? How much the farmer is getting? What is the farmer's realization from a consumer's pie? That is very important. In a fruits and vegetable case, normally there should be getting around 60%, but what our farmers today get as low as 30%. So that's a farmers in consumer pie is very important aspect. And third part is the consumer front. Consumer, is he getting a safe food or safe vegetable, and is it value for money to him? So this completes the chain, and I think we will have to work on every front or improve upon. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. I think brilliant. You've touched upon three aspects: the digital part of it, the physical part of it, and then the consumer part of it, along with the farmer's realization. So I've genuinely made note of it, and I think these will be subjects on which we would definitely want to work upon. So, Kohli ji, for you, the last bit of takeaway that you want to give.
Can you please come again, Mr. Satish?
I said, since we are asking one takeaway that you want to give for the food supply chain, because like what Mihir ji mentioned about the digital supply chain, the physical aspect, and the farmer realization and consumer safe. Is there any other aspect in the cold chain or in the supply chain that you think is critical? Any other aspect?
Yes, a very good thing that you have just raised about the wastage of food. So that is the very biggest challenge nowadays. We all know that cold chain business in India is rapidly growing, and where Indian cold chain market has a worth of 1100 plus 1100 billion rupees in, and market is further projected to reach somewhere 3000 billion by 2024, which is just a CHR's report. Which is means growing at CAGR of 15% in coming 5 years, or just 2.5 times from the existing business volume. So, considering all these scenarios where we are going to become a very large, as we are the largest milk producer of in the world. So, in terms of other perishable, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay, so in terms of other things also, just in terms of fruits, exporting fruits or the processing food, we are also growing, and very soon we could reach at the peak level where the messages are floating on the Facebook or the other portals that India has become the large has entered into top 10 exporting of food processing. So very soon it is not a very big thing to reaching at the peak. So considering all those things, we should reduce the wastage of the perishable products, which is being increasing day by day due to the lack of the infrastructure or the lack of the awareness. Yes, government is helping industry to grow in their infrastructure manner. Yes, it is very good thing. We should appreciate, everyone should appreciate, but there is a requirement of knowledge awareness also to each and every individual till last mile. We should know if we are bringing a frozen product in our house, being a household, I'm telling you, so then it should be at what temperature. Normally we don't see, being a household, we don't see all these things at what temperature we have kept the product, and we have just bought it from our market, and we are just roaming around the market, and after 3 hours we are just keeping it to freezers. So these all wastages are happening because of lack of awareness. Government or the industry or the other agencies should also work on this awareness of towards this frozen and the cold chain industry. Thank you.
I think brilliant. For a simple reason that earlier we used to struggle to get our food, but today India is, as an economy also, and in terms of agriculture, I think we have enough production in terms of farming happening. But wastage can be definitely reduced by creating awareness, which is an important aspect. And I know that we've typically been using refrigerators like always in the history where no temperature is there, to a world where now we get temperatures in our refrigerators and we are able to determine at what temperature we should store what. I think that awareness is definitely helping. Because with due respect, the person only who's drinking a chilled beer knows the impact of it from a person who doesn't have a chilled beer in a 40 degrees. So I think it's a good point that you've touched upon, and awareness is something which we can do by participating in more events like this, asking media partners also to get engaged with more industry players, take live knowledge and then showcase what are the technologies available and create awareness. So I'll quickly go into Sachin. Sachin, probably your last closing remarks before I go to Sanjay ji.
Yeah, just two words. I think what we it's more important that I think post independence we are more concerned about food security. Food to be there. I think we should now graduate to food safety. I think that's as a responsible service provider. It is important for all of us to, as you rightly mentioned, that share the knowledge. I think we touched upon infrastructure. We touched upon the, I would say, the last mile. Ensuring quality at the last mile. I think as a responsible service provider, we need to ensure that we ensure all these are taken care, so that we in the end we what we deliver to our household is a safe product, and we should create some sort of infrastructure which will help to mutualize the resources. I think that's what we see the key. Instead of creating isolation, in isolation the resources or the infrastructure. I think creating a infrastructure which can be mutualized in terms of resources, in terms of knowledge, in terms of ultimate delivery to all the customers. I think that's more important. As a responsible service provider, I think we need to engage with all the stakeholders on this.
No, good. I think you touched upon the mutual resources and multiple stakeholders. And during the discussion, also we touched upon an aspect of collaboration. The more we collaborate in the industry, the more we are benefited. So I will hand it over to Sanjay ji now for his last comments and then hand it over back to Subhatra. Over to you, Sanjay
No,
ji.
so yeah, thanks. I think as Mr. Kohli was saying, I think that we are very very optimistic about the future of the food supply chain. Again, taking a cue from Mr. Kohli, however, we have to keep in mind that we are a poor or we are a developing country. And one of the reasons we are not being able to grow the packaged food ecosystem, and hence the supply chain, and hence the income of our farmers, is that ultimately food has to be something which is affordable every day. Now, taking on Mr. Kohli, I think that the cooperatives, and especially I think Amul, if I look at, we're in the dairy business, so we have worked on that. Amul has really excelled it, and everybody's copied that. So if I look at purely, I'll take 20 seconds on this. If I look at the rate which a farmer gets for milk in India today, and the rate at which my consumer is buying a pouch of milk, the ratio is not more than 1.3 times or 1.4 times. The ratio is 2.5 times for atta. The ratio is 5 to 10 times for frozen food. The ratio is maybe 20-25 times purely mathematically for ice creams. I think unless we solve for that as a system, in terms of the supply chain cost of food products, and really getting that supply chain cost within the cost where the packaged food industry in India can grow by 20 times, which is what Amul has done or cooperatives have done for dairy. I think that is where the big challenge really lies. The costing is also very, very important.
No, very good. I think all of you gave wonderful inputs to summarize, because the India's developing country situation and the lower middle class being a majority players in the past, to a lot of families being driven by one earning member to 4 or 5 members coming up, I think they will also realize the importance of having a good packaging and getting a safe product against getting a very cheap product in the end of the day. Because today, I would have not had trust on a frozen product many years ago. Like someone said, should I have an organic food? I think that mindset is gone, because today I'm more confident about even an ITC product or a mother dairy product or a HyFun foods, because I know that the people making it are quite knowledgeable and are conscious of these aspects, including looking at aspects of sustainability, carbon footprints, and these aspects in most of it. With this, I think it was a very insightful discussion from the panel members. And Sanjay ji, even if you have joined a little late, not to worry. You've given your bit of it, and we love your interaction as much as Mihir ji's inputs and Sachin, and as well as Kohli ji's. So Basundhara, the dais is back, handed over to you just by 2 minutes delay. I normally don't, but today I had to accommodate Sanjay ji also.
No, thank you.
No problem at all. Thank you, Satish sir. Brilliant insights. I did not even feel like interrupting, but I see a couple of questions in the comment section that we'd be delighted if the panel takes it forward. So these questions will be open to the floor. I'll start off with Mr. Chetan Dattani's question. Mr. Chetan is asking, considering warehousing is a vast field, what could be a niche segment in terms of operations in future warehousing? If anybody wants to take it forward.
I think Sachin should take that question.
Yeah, so in terms of niche, I think what he has mentioned, warehousing is a vast field as he rightly mentioned. I think niche is where we have as I mentioned earlier, also the grade A infrastructure, which is large scale. I think what large scale brings in is a lot of efficiency. I think that's where the market will head. That's where the niche will come in. Having a smaller warehouses, managing smaller warehouses with a lot of cost. I think all of us touched upon the cost part. I think that's an important part, to have some sort of a scale in managing the warehouse operation. So that becomes a sort of a niche product, and obviously with integrated warehousing, I would say, in terms of having facilities, if it's a like food supply chain, having facilities for grading, packing, a lot of value addition. I think that's where the niche warehousing market would be.
Thank you, sir, for answering that. If anybody else wants to add anything to this question, Sanjay sir or Kohli sir.
Not really.
Okay, and Satish sir, would you like to say anything, or do we go forward to the next questions?
No, I think the important aspect is that it depends clearly on what the organization wants to service to which market also. For a reason is that in the warehousing sphere, there are few people who are present across the country. But for example, Northeast is a market where we today see that the market is drastically growing, but it becomes very expensive to reach to those markets. So if someone wants to be a very niche player in a particular market, then he needs to play on his strength and not copy someone, because if everyone wants to set up today in Bhiwandi in Bombay and say, look, we are there, there is everyone there. So there is no rocket science in that aspect of it. So let's understand that the Indian market is growing in tier 2 cities drastically within the era of internet where people can order online. There is so much of an opportunity that you can go to the last mile. There are smart cities which don't have the type of small warehousing. So you need to decide, do you really want to be the mother warehouse, or do you want to be that bit of a player in the tier 2 cities with innovation? Because Kohli ji mentioned about an important aspect of power being a problematic area today still in the country. So do we want to get into solar type of packaging solutions and infrastructure in some parts of where the peak summer is, and the beautiful sunlight can be utilized in a renewable energy, is an area which there is infrastructure cost. But I think that's where people need to have clarity of thought and then set up your priorities and not copy everyone as it is. That is my clear thought.
Indeed, brilliantly answered, sir. The next question is by Mr. Vishwanathan. A lot of food is wasted in rural areas after the harvest. Tomatoes in kg of cultivation of the crops are not utilized properly where the real requirement exists. How can these problems be solved?
Okay. I know Sanjay ji touched upon it in his comments about the food wastage and the thing. One, what Vishwanath is saying is a fact that there has been a lot of wastage that is happening. We have seen even in the past that the produce cannot get to the market, so it is thrown onto the roads. But I think over the years, the cold storage facilities, both from a government standpoint to new ventures coming up, the wastage is bound to reduce. But this can only happen with more awareness being created about what infrastructure is available in which district. But some districts like UP, Telangana have really come out with policies for supporting these initiatives. The latest is the Telangana government has said if you set up a 10,000 square feet cold storage, also you will be subsidized. So they've gone to that extent of the farmers being supported at it in many ways. And to answer to Vishwanath's point, mobile companies like Vodafone have gone to the extent of helping farmers understand through their app what is the type of temperature, what precautions they need to take to avoid even the wastage. So there is much more happening. I wouldn't say that this is the maximum, but this is the start of the whole process.
Indeed, sir, very brilliantly answered. I believe that answers this question. Another question by Mr. Squadron Leader, Mr. Vijay Kumar Yadav. So his question is, what is the trail to find out the point of failure identified, as it is difficult to identify the spoiled product after refreezing? Who incurs the risk of losses in the event of spoilage? Open to the floor if anybody wants to take this question.
If I'm not wrong, the question is the indication you are asking about the spoilage of products. So how you can identify it is spoiled or not. So it is although it is pertaining to a technical person, but still I want to answer of it. In terms of ice cream, it is very easy to identify whether the temperature has gone or not, or whether the product is okay or not. You can identify with the shape. If the shapes are uneven, if you are having a popsicles or the ice cream sticks in your hand, and if it is not in the proper shape, that normal, then it is quite obvious that temperature was abused and it is refreezed, and it is not good to consume it. And if I talk about the French fries and the potato products, is my favorite area. Definitely, there must be, in case of the temperature abusing, there must be a water releasing from the product. Definitely, you will find some ice crystals inside the packets. So if you find the ice crystals in the packet, do not consume it, as it is not good for your health. So it is the answer of your question, I believe so.
Thank you, sir. The next question, if you would like to add, if you'd like to answer this question as well, it is by Mr. Suresh Kumar.
Okay.
His question is, are the cold chain industry players investing in world-class products and reefers for storage and transportation so as to attain global standards? And the follow-up question to it is, are there revenues to justify such expenses? Would request our team to highlight the question once.
First of all, I want to answer about for the first question, that what are the industry players, the cold chain industry players are doing for the industry, or let's say what they are investing. I belong to HyFun Foods. I come from HyFun Foods, and as I mentioned, it is a startup. Just 5 years back, we have started. Nowadays, we proudly I can say that we are the largest manufacturers or the largest producer of French fries and the other potato products across the country. And very soon, in coming couple of 1 or 2 years, will be the largest in the Asia, we can say, the Asia continents. Why? Because of the infrastructure, because of the investment, because of the expansions we are doing in a very world-class manner. The plant, then the other warehousing infrastructure, the logistical things that we are going, that we are deploying for the company are the world class. The manufacturing lines that we are importing, that is again from the Netherlands, and from the biggest and from the, I don't want to quote the name of the companies, from the master of these the segments only we are doing purchasing from. So it is not about the HyFun Foods. There are so many other companies are also working in a very good manner. They are also investing very good amount of the money in the country for cold chain infrastructure as well. So the future is bright. We should be we should be. Thank you.
Indeed, that was very encouraging. I'd like to ask the rest of the panel members if they would want to add anything to it. Sachin sir, Satish sir, Sanjay sir.
So let me quickly give him a little more insight. because we generally think India is not the best of the country in terms of infrastructure at our airports or at lot of places. We are better off than New York or Rickenbacker's airport or a Miami airport today in terms of our cold chain capabilities. India has, if you look at Delhi airport, Mumbai airport, Hyderabad, Bangalore is probably the only airport in the country which has an integrated cold terminal called as Cool Port, which caters to pharma, fruits and vegetables. And the on for the Valentine days, most of the roses from Bangalore fly out of the Bangalore airport in the right temperature, in the right shape in terms to get to those wonderful ladies waiting in some other part of the world. So India, in one sense, is far ahead of a lot of countries in terms of understanding, because we live in a very difficult environment of 43 to 44 degrees in some places, even going much higher. And so we are conscious of the fact that cold chain is critical. Whereas in the Europe part of it, while they have cold chain infrastructure, they have the advantages of having temperatures which are not as high as what India undergoes. So the awareness is there. Two, you can't be fudging around with the infrastructure, because in cold chain, if your temperature has to be minus 20, you can't show a minus 17 or a 16, because it will show. So where is the question of the infrastructure not being anywhere world class? I think it's clearly a case in cold chain. You can't. Then to answer his point, the root causes are identified through CAPAs, which are corrective and preventive action measures that are put in place, and then necessary actions are taken, because you can't release a pharma or a food product if it is in bad shape. If it is a tire lying on a road, it doesn't matter in an automotive. But whereas in a food chain, they have guidelines in terms of FSI and rest of them. I think so we are far ahead in that sense, and I'm glad that he's asked this question.
Yeah, I just want to add, because one part of the question was who is responsible for the failures of the supply chain. I think it is very clear that the brand owner or the manufacturer, because he is selling the product, it is not, yes, of course the supply chain and the farmer can be responsible, but ultimately you are marketing a food product and you are responsible for any failures. That's how anybody would take it, I would say.
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir, for perfectly answering that. Another question by Mr. Vijay Kumar Jadhav. How much technology penetration has taken place into this level of the supply chain, especially drones? If Sanjay sir would want to take that question.
No, I think that is a good question, but I think we should keep one thing in perspective. We are a country of 1.4 billion, and we are a country where malnutrition is one of the biggest problems. So I think we have to solve for some basics right now in terms of food wastage, in terms of, I mean, honestly speaking, we are a country where, if I look at dairy, I'll go back to dairy once again. The price of milk to the farmer today, despite all the optimization we have done, the farmer is getting the same rate as New Zealand or as Europe. And the reality of our supply chain costs today is that my driver and my maid cannot afford to give a glass of milk to his son. So I think drones are great to talk, but we have far more to solve. I mean, the largest grower of milk is in the position where we cannot feed a glass of milk to an average child in this country. I think there are far bigger things, my friend, to solve rather than looking at very, very expensive solutions, is what I would say.
Indeed. Thank you, sir, for walking us through that. So let's just clarify this question, that the question on technology penetration was towards spoilage detection. It's open to the panel if anybody wants to add to it. Sachin, sir, or Satish.
No, let me touch base on two. One, on the drone part of it, which someone asked and for which Mr. Sanjay ji commented.
Sure.
Definitely, the government has come out with legislations in terms of drone usage. The Ministry of Civil Aviation has worked with the logistics partners, because there were other different issues because of security angle that delayed the whole process. And we have seen what has happened recently in Kashmir in terms of drones being used for attack. So drones in India, while can be an subject of enthusiasm for the startups and a lot of them, but I think we have a larger angle of the civil aviation rules and what level it can fly. So it may take a little longer than what one anticipates, or one would want the drone to come and give you a hot pizza straight into your drawing room, into the middle of the room. But that will be a little longer because of security angle. And in respect to penetration aspect, which squadron leader or someone was talking about, I think Mihirji touched upon it, that there are devices and gadgets which are available but today not being used because of lack of awareness or whatever it is. So definitely it is a point that penetration in terms of using technology at the mandi and farmer level have to start, because your grading system is an old outdated system. And definitely one would want to really ensure that when a baby corn reaches London from Bangalore, the baby corn has a shelf life of clear 5 days, so the penetration angle is important.
Thank you, Satish sir, for shedding light on the intricacies of it. If there's anything Sachin sir or Kohli sir would like to add.
I think I agree with Mr. Satish, on the drone part. I think that's something which really needs to be looked at. But as a technology part, I think it can be used within warehouses. What we also started doing to certain aspect to do inventory accounting, inventory counting. I think it's a step we need to take. To accept and adapt that technology, and then the time will come when we can actually deploy it. For certain outside activities, and as what Mr. Satish said. I think one important part also on the wastage or failure, I think this process control center where we can continuously monitor and give that real time information back to say consumer. I think we've been having some information, or we are gathering information, but it is not reaching till end consumer. When a consumer get a product, he doesn't know how this product has traveled say from farm to just table. I think somewhere we can do some sort of a I would say some startup or innovations where we can track the information and supply that information with all its nutritional value or quality of food. I think that would create a lot of awareness. Consumer will start demanding that, and itself, as a pull, it will the whole industry would work towards that to identify, where the failures are happening.
Indeed, thank you, sir, for your insights. Um, Moving on, there's another question. There's a question by Mr. Akhilesh. He would like to know about the scope of FPOs and startups in the supply chain, especially from Madhya Pradesh area. So this is a very specific question for MP. If the panel members would like to say something about that.
I can take it. I think it's a time that we have seen a lot of supply chain startups coming into it. There have been a lot of success stories over the last 15 years, and startups have not come up in the supply chain today. But there are very good companies which have lasted over the last 10 years. It's not specific to Madhya Pradesh, because in Madhya Pradesh, unfortunately, we don't have an international airport, or it is not currently an hub for multiple reasons. And also, there is only the dry ports that are there, which also means that there is an opportunity to create more logistics activities in MP. And I recollect having done a program along with Logistics Insider on Madhya Pradesh state and giving our recommendations on larger logistics initiatives given. But to answer to Akhilesh's point, Telangana government is encouraging startups with brilliant solutions for supply chain with huge amount of subsidies. So if that model can be copied in Madhya Pradesh, nothing like that. So that's my answer, Vasundhara. Sorry for jumping in, but no one was taking it, so I had to take it.
No, sir. Thank you so much for taking it, and you were also the key moderator for that event on Madhya Pradesh. So this was a question designed for you. Moving to the end of the Q&A session. So a question by Mr. Arun Ramasetti. How much is technology of predictive modeling used in India, like cold chain simulation in the food supply chain? What is the future? Sanjay sir, do you want to say something about that?
No, I think we have more evolved panel members who are working in the cold chain. So I think they'll be better.
Sure, sir. Please go ahead.
Okay.
Kohli,
Let me jump in with Arun on this, because Arun, I know that you all are in the industry where you give that visibility and trackability. Predicting is always good. Anyone would like to know before a product reach to the other country if it is going to spoil. Then it is better to retrieve the cargo from the airport rather than send it to some other country and pay for the freight. But this is a great opportunity, and if you all are having something on it, the industry will be more than happy to look at it without any difficulty. Be it Mr. Kohli or Mr. Mihir or Sanjay, will be happy to see their products predictability in terms of will it hit Delhi, will the shelf life be there or not be there. So I think that's my answer. But if Kohli or Mihir ji want to answer it, welcome.
Actually, I can add one example now that I think of it. We launched chocolates a few years back from ITC, and it was very useful now that we talk, because typically chocolates require good quality chocolates require a good temperature at the retail end. So that was a big problem, because you can give a refrigerator to a retailer, you can give a rent to the retailer, you can give electricity charge to the retailer, but before he goes home at 7 in the night, he will switch off the main switch of the shop and disappear, and that is the end of your cold chain or whatever it is worth it. So what we tried in a small way, Mr. Satish, is that we put up these sensors, and we put up a control system in our head office where each of those 500 to 1000 refrigerators, they were talking to us, we were pinging them and getting the temperature. So there were a lot of learnings, because honestly we could figure out कि 40% फ्रिज तो रात भर बंद है, तो आपका चॉकलेट आइसक्रीम छोड़ दीजिए, चॉकलेट भी खराब हो जाता है. So that is a challenge. There is technology possible, but how much you can do it is the question.
I agree, and I think the other point is that today, even in the cold storage, you have technologies like PCMs, which can be used and which we are using today, where you don't need power, you don't need anything, but we give 11 days transit time of a 2 to 8 or a 15 to 25 without any external agencies. And so I'm sure in the coming days, even a 30 days validity can be given with solar power or anything else without any difficulty. So it's good.
Indeed, sir. With that, we come to the end of today's Q&A session. The food supply chain forms the heart and crux of the entire industry, needless to say. The invaluable insights and pearls of wisdom shared by the respective panelists today will definitely ignite more discussions and stimulate actions and serve as a roadmap for the industry in the days to come. With that, we hope that India's food supply chain truly stands on the cusp of a real and new revolution. I extend my heartfelt gratitude to our respected speakers for such an invigorating and power-packed session today. Thank you, Kohli sir, Sanjay sir, Sachin sir, and Mihir sir for your brilliant insights. My special thanks to Satish sir for accepting our request to be the moderator of the event and for steering today's session to perfection. Thank you, Satish sir. Last but definitely not the least, thank you to our viewers for their insightful questions. And with that, we come to the end of today's event. We look forward to seeing you all in person at India's premier B2B exhibition for food technology and new tech, International Food Tech India, co-located with Food Logistics India from 2nd to 4th December at Pragati Maidan, New Delhi. So hope to see you all there. Thank you and have a pleasant day ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.